They planned to erase Scarlet Haze before midnight, but the forest had already sent a king to watch. "Kneel, scarred thing," Beta Travis Cole said, his voice carrying across the frozen courtyard of Silver Hollow Pack like a church bell rung for the wrong funeral. Scarlet was already on her knees in the snow, her thin gray dress damp at the hem, her pale hands curled carefully in her lap so no one would see them shaking. Above her, the pack house glowed with warm yellow windows, full of people who had eaten dinner, laughed at long tables, and then stepped outside to witness an Omega being stripped of the last scraps of her name. They stood in a half-circle around her, wrapped in fur-lined coats and polished boots, their faces bright with cruel curiosity. To them, she was not Scarlet Haze, daughter of a woman no one dared mention anymore. She was the damaged Omega from the laundry rooms. The girl with the silver-white scar climbing from her collarbone to her shoulder like a secret trying to escape her skin. Victoria Ashford stepped forward with a smile too soft to be kind, her winter-white cloak brushing the snow as if the cold itself respected her. In her gloved hand, she held ceremonial silver shears, the kind used for cutting old pack ties, breaking names from records, and turning living people into rumors. "Don't tremble, Scarlet," Victoria said sweetly. "It makes the court think you still believe you matter." A few wolves laughed. Scarlet lowered her gaze, not because she was ashamed, but because she was counting. 1 breath, 2, 3. If she focused on the rhythm of the cold entering her lungs, she could keep herself from remembering the cellar, the collar, the night her mother pushed a trembling hand against her cheek and whispered, "Hide the mark. Survive first." Travis crouched in front of her, close enough for her to smell the expensive whiskey on his breath and the sharp smoke clinging to his black coat. "By order of Silver Hollow," he announced, "this Omega is unclaimed, unprotected, and unworthy of pack shelter. Her records will be burned, her rank removed, her scar will be shown, so every territory knows what kind of creature we threw away." Scarlet's fingers tightened, but she said nothing. Silence had been her only shield for years. It did not save her, but it kept one piece of her soul out of their hands. Victoria reached for the neckline of Scarlet's dress, intending to expose the scar beneath the moon, and the courtyard leaned forward as one hungry thing. Then the wind changed. Not louder, not colder, stranger. The scent of pine rolled over the snow, deep and ancient, followed by ozone, like lightning trapped behind black clouds. Every torch along the courtyard wall bent toward the forest. Travis paused. Victoria's smile thinned. Scarlet lifted her head. At the edge of the tree line, where the pines stood packed together like silent judges, 2 golden eyes opened in the dark. No one moved. No one breathed. Then a low growl rolled out of the woods, so deep the snow slipped from the roof in a soft white sheet, and for the first time that night, Silver Hollow Pack looked afraid. The growl did not sound like an animal warning them away. It sounded like a law older than the pack itself had woken in the trees. Travis Cole straightened first, because arrogance often mistakes fear for insult. He turned toward the forest with his shoulders squared, though his hand tightened around the ceremonial blade at his belt. "Stay where you are," he called into the dark, forcing his voice to carry. "This is Silver Hollow territory." The golden eyes did not blink. They remained fixed on Scarlet, not on Travis, not on Victoria, not on the circle of wolves pretending they had not taken one cautious step back. Scarlet could feel that gaze like warmth against the cold place beneath her scar. It should have terrified her. It did terrify her. But beneath the terror was something stranger, something almost impossible. Recognition. The black wolf stepped forward until moonlight caught the edges of its massive shape. It was larger than any wolf Scarlet had ever seen, its coat so dark it seemed to swallow the snowflakes before they touched it. Frost clung to its shoulders like a crown of shattered glass. Its paws left deep, silent prints across the white ground, and every alpha in the courtyard lowered their eyes. Without meaning to, Victoria's face changed for half a second. Not enough for the pack to notice. Enough for Scarlet to see. The perfect Luna candidate, the woman who smiled while cutting names from records, looked afraid. "It is only a rogue beast," Travis said, but the words came out thinner than before. He pulled the blade from his belt and lifted it, as if a piece of polished silver could protect him from whatever had crossed the boundary. "Drive it back." No one moved. The guards at the gate stared at the wolf with the pale, frozen expressions of men who suddenly remembered old bedtime stories and realized they had laughed at the wrong ones. The torches bent lower. The wind pressed flat. Scarlet's breath caught when the wolf's gaze dropped to the exposed edge of her scar. A slow, quiet rumble passed through its chest, not loud this time, but intimate, furious, and controlled. It was not asking what had happened. It already knew something had. Victoria stepped between Scarlet and the wolf, her white cloak spreading like a false flag across the snow. "This Omega is under lawful judgment," she said, sweet voice sharpened at the edges. "Whatever creature you are, you have no claim here." The wolf finally looked at her. Just once. Victoria stopped speaking. Travis, desperate to reclaim the attention of his pack, raised the silver blade higher. "I said back," he shouted, and threw it toward the tree line. The blade never reached the wolf. It stopped in midair, hovering for one impossible heartbeat, then folded inward with a clean metallic crack and dropped harmlessly into the snow. A sound moved through the courtyard, not quite a gasp, not quite a prayer. Scarlet stared at the ruined silver, her pulse suddenly louder than the wind. Then a voice entered her mind, deep as thunder beneath the earth, cold enough to still every thought except the one it carried. "Who did this to you?" Scarlet should have screamed. She should have looked away. Instead, with snow on her lashes and her scar burning beneath Victoria's hand, she answered in a whisper so small the pack almost missed it. "Everyone." The black wolf crossed the boundary line. The moment its paw touched silver hollow ground, every alpha in the courtyard dropped to one knee. The courtyard did not bow because it wanted to. It bowed because something older than choice pressed down from the night. Travis Cole fought it the longest, his jaw locked, his shoulders shaking beneath his black coat. But even he sank to one knee when the black wolf stopped in front of Scarlet. Snow gathered along the beast's back. Its golden eyes lowered to her face, then to the pale scar half hidden beneath her torn neckline, and the silence around them became so complete that Scarlet could hear her own heartbeat stumbling. Then the wolf changed. Shadows folded inward. Fur became dark cloth. Claws became long, steady fingers. The massive shape rose until a man stood where the wolf had been, tall and still beneath the moon, with black hair wind swept from his face and eyes that had not lost their gold. No one said his name at first. They did not have to. Every person in Silver Hollow knew the crest at his throat, a crown carved from onyx and silver. King Adrian Blackwood, ruler of the Northern Pax, had entered their territory without an escort, without announcement, and without asking permission. He did not shout. That was what made it worse. Men like Travis shouted because they needed the world to believe they were powerful. Adrian simply looked at him, and the courtyard seemed to remember what real power felt like. "Your Majesty," Travis said quickly, bending his head so low his breath stirred the snow. "This is a private disciplinary matter. The Omega was judged by lawful pack authority." Adrian did not answer him. His attention had returned to Scarlet, and for one wild second she wished he would look away. Not because his gaze was cruel, but because it saw too much. It saw the way she held her left shoulder slightly higher to hide the scar. It saw the old fear in her body when Victoria's hand remained near her neckline. It saw every careful habit she had built to survive people who smiled while taking pieces of her life away. Victoria stepped forward with practiced grace, but her perfume could not cover the sharp scent of panic beneath it. "Your Majesty, I apologize for the disturbance. Scarlet has been unstable for years. Her scent is damaged. Her history is complicated." Adrian finally looked at her. "Then why," he asked softly, "does she smell like royal blood?" The courtyard forgot how to breathe. Scarlet did not understand the words, but Victoria did. The color left her face so fast that even the lowest wolves saw it. Travis lifted his head, eyes wide, and opened his mouth to speak. Adrian raised one hand. Not a command shouted across a battlefield. A quiet motion. Travis went silent. The king removed his black cloak and placed it around Scarlet's shoulders. The fabric was heavy, warm, and scented with pine, winter air, and the strange electric storm that had rolled out of the forest with him. Scarlet flinched before she could stop herself. Adrian noticed. Something dangerous moved behind his eyes, not rage unleashed, but rage disciplined until it became judgment. The windows of the pack house trembled in their frames. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, unseen wolves answered with low, solemn howls. Adrian turned back to Travis, his voice calm enough to chill the air. You will remain alive, ranked, and speaking until she wakes under royal protection. That is not mercy. He looked once at Victoria, then at every silent face that had watched Scarlet kneel. That is preparation. Scarlet tried to ask what he meant, but the cold, the fear, and the burning ache beneath her scar finally pulled the world out from under her. The last thing she felt was the cloak tightening around her shoulders and the Alpha King catching her before the snow could. Scarlet woke to warmth so unfamiliar that for a moment she thought she had died and been sent somewhere kind by mistake. The ceiling above her was carved from black stone veined with silver, high enough to belong to a cathedral, and soft amber light moved across it from candles set along the walls. Outside the tall window, snow fell over a dark forest and the distant outline of a citadel wall, not the crooked fence of Silver Hollow, not the courtyard where her name had nearly been erased. Her first instinct was to sit up. Her second was to hide the scar. Pain answered before either. Instinct could become action, a deep silver ache under her left shoulder that made her breath catch. Easy, a woman said from beside the bed. The voice was calm, professional, and careful. You are safe inside Blackwood Citadel. Safe. The words sounded beautiful and dangerous, like a door that might vanish if Scarlet trusted it. The healer was older, with gray-streaked brown hair pinned at the back of her neck and clear blue eyes that did not hold pity. A royal wolf lay beside the hearth, head raised, watching Scarlet with solemn attention. Not guarding the room from her, guarding her from the room. Where is King Adrian? Scarlet asked, her voice rough from cold and fear. Outside the door, the healer replied, arguing with the council because he refused to let them question you while you were unconscious. Scarlet looked down and realized the black cloak was still over her shoulders, folded around her like a promise no one had asked her permission to believe. Before she could speak again, the door opened. Adrian entered with Mason Reed at his side, both men silent, both carrying the kind of tension that made even the candles burn lower. The Alpha King stopped several feet from the bed, as if he had already learned that sudden closeness made her flinch. No one here will touch you without your consent, he said. Scarlet did not know what to do with that, so she stared at the blanket instead. The healer drew back the edge of the cloak just enough to study the scar beneath Scarlet's collarbone. The room changed when she saw it clearly. Her calm expression sharpened. Mason stopped breathing for half a second. Adrian went utterly still. This is not a punishment mark, the healer said softly. It is a lock. Scarlet's hands curled into the blanket. A lock on what? The healer looked at Adrian before answering. On her wolf. On her scent. On anything that would have identified her bloodline. The words moved through Scarlet like cold water under ice. Memories rose in fragments, not enough to understand, enough to hurt. Her mother kneeling in firelight. A shaking hand against Scarlet's cheek. A whispered command. Hide the mark. Survive first. Scarlet closed her eyes. I was 16 when they put the collar on me, she said. They told me my wolf was defective. They told me the scar proved it. Adrian's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed low. Who told you? Before she could answer, Mason stepped forward with a leather file in his hand. Your Majesty, her birth record was replaced. The original registry was removed from Silver Hollow 12 years ago. Someone wanted Scarlet Hayes to become an unnamed Omega. The scar began to burn, not like pain alone, but like recognition. The door opened again before anyone gave permission. Victoria Ashford swept inside in white silk and winter perfume, her smile polished for witnesses who were not there. Your Majesty, she said, bowing just enough to insult the room politely. The council is concerned. A damaged Omega should not be hidden where rumors can grow. Scarlet did not hear the rest. The moment Victoria's voice touched the air, the scar under Scarlet's skin flared with silver heat, and somewhere deep inside her, something that had been silent for years opened one furious eye. Victoria's smile entered the room before her kindness did, smooth, pale, and practiced enough to fool anyone who had never been ruined by it. Scarlet sat very still beneath the black cloak, feeling the scar beneath her collarbone pulse like a warning bell under her skin. The royal healer stepped closer to the bed, not in fear, but in protection, while the wolf by the hearth rose without a sound. Victoria noticed both movements and gave a soft, wounded laugh. There is no need for suspicion, she said, folding her gloved hands in front of her white silk dress. I came because the council asked me to help. The poor girl is confused, and confusion becomes dangerous when it is wrapped in royal attention. Adrian did not move from the foot of the bed. You entered a protected chamber without permission. I entered because I care about the stability of your throne, Victoria replied, lowering her eyes with perfect humility. Silver Hollow has already requested Scarlet's return. They claim she is unstable, and if the council believes you are hiding a damaged Omega for personal reasons, the border packs will talk. Scarlet felt the word damage settle over the room like ash. It had followed her for years. Damaged hands, damaged scent, damaged wolf, damaged blood. The old version of her would have lowered her head and disappeared inside the silence they had trained into her. But the scar was burning now, and deep beneath that burn, something inside her was listening. Mason opened the leather file and placed several pages on the table beside Adrian. Silver Hollow also sent testimony from Beta Travis Cole, he said. He claims Scarlet accepted the old collar willingly after betraying her pack. Victoria sighed as though the accusation pained her. I wish it were not true. I always hoped she could be rehabilitated. But some wounds do not heal correctly. Scarlet looked at her then. Really looked. The same delicate voice. The same winter perfume. The same eyes that had watched from the stairs years ago while a frightened 16-year-old girl was told she was no one. You were there, Scarlet whispered. The room went quiet. Victoria tilted her head. Grief can create false memories. Scarlet pushed the cloak back just enough to sit straighter. Her body ached. Her hands trembled, and fear still lived in her ribs, but her voice did not break. Then asked Travis why the mark was carved while I was unconscious. The healer inhaled sharply. Mason's gaze snapped to the file. Adrian's eyes darkened, but he stayed silent, letting her words stand in the center of the room without covering them with his power. Victoria's smile remained, but it no longer reached her eyes. Careful, Scarlet. A scarred Omega accusing ranked wolves without proof will only make the council pity you less. I am finished needing their pity, Scarlet said. Outside the chamber, a low sound moved through the hall. One wolf, then another, then many. Not howling. Listening. Mason walked to the door and opened it. The corridor beyond was lined with royal wolves, black, gray, and silver, sitting in absolute stillness, all facing Scarlet's room. Victoria took one step back before she could stop herself. Adrian finally spoke, calm and cold enough to turn every candle flame still. We will hold a royal hearing at moonrise. Victoria recovered quickly, dipping into a graceful bow. Of course, Your Majesty. Truth should always be seen clearly. But as she turned to leave, Scarlet saw her glance at the scar again, and for the first time in years, the fear in the room did not belong to Scarlet. Mason Reed found the hidden room beneath Silver Hollow less than an hour before moonrise, behind a false stone wall in the old records cellar where dust lay thick enough to turn every footprint into testimony. He did not enter alone. 3 royal guards followed him, and so did the gray wolf that had refused to leave Scarlet's door since dawn, silent as a shadow with judgment in its eyes. The cellar smelled of damp paper, old smoke, and secrets kept too long. Shelves lined the narrow chamber from floor to ceiling, but most of the ledgers had been burned at the edges, not destroyed completely, only wounded, as if whoever hid them had been in too much of a hurry to finish the lie. Mason lifted one blackened registry from a locked iron drawer and froze when the first intact name appeared beneath the ash. Scarlet Alara Hayes, daughter of Marin Hayes. Bloodline classification sealed by royal decree. Moon-blessed Luna descent. The words were quiet on paper, but they struck like thunder when Mason brought them back to Blackwood Citadel. Scarlet was standing near the window when he entered the healing chamber, wrapped in Adrian's cloak, watching the snow turn blue beneath the coming evening. She looked smaller than the room wanted her to be, but not as small as she had looked in Silver Hollow's courtyard. Adrian stood across from her, giving her space, though every line of his body remained focused on the faint silver glow beneath her scar. Mason laid the registry on the table. They did not just hide her rank, he said. They buried her name. The healer read the page first, then covered her mouth with one trembling hand. Adrian did not touch the file. He looked at Scarlet. Your mother was not a servant. Scarlet's breath thinned. A memory moved inside her, soft at first, then sharp enough to make the room tilt. Her mother's hands smelled of lavender soap and candle wax. Her voice had been urgent but gentle. Hide the mark. Survive first. Scarlet pressed her palm to her collarbone. She told me never to show anyone, she whispered. I thought she meant the scar. The healer shook her head. She meant the Luna mark beneath it. The scar answered those words with a pulse of silver heat. Scarlet gasped and gripped the window frame, not from fear alone, but because something inside her pushed toward the surface like a heartbeat waking after a long winter. Adrian crossed half the room before stopping himself, his hand clenched at his side. What is happening to her? The healer moved quickly, checking the old seal with glowing fingertips. The lock is cracking. The poison woven into it is moving with it. Scarlet heard the word poison and should have panicked, but the strongest feeling rising in her was not panic. It was anger. Not wild anger. Clean anger. The kind that had waited 12 years for permission to breathe. Mason turned another page in the registry. Victoria Ashford signed the replacement order. Travis Cole witnessed it. In exchange, Silver Hollow received expanded border rights and a council seat. Adrian closed his eyes once. When he opened them, the gold in them was almost unbearable. They traded a child's identity for power. Scarlet looked at the page, at the proof that she had not imagined the theft of her own life. Her voice came out quiet. They told me I was nothing because they needed me to forget I was something. The scar flared again, brighter this time, and the candles along the wall bent toward her. Adrian stepped close enough for the warmth of him to reach her, but not close enough to trap her. Scarlet, listen to me. The hearing can wait. She shook her head. No, I have waited long enough. Then a sound rose from deep within the black stone of the citadel, a distant feminine howl, ancient, furious, and alive. Every royal wolf in the corridor lowered its head. Scarlet's silver eyes widened, and for the first time since she was 16, something inside her answered. By moonrise, Blackwood Citadel had become so silent that every step sounded like a verdict. Scarlet walked toward the royal court in a simple white dress chosen by the healer, not because it was beautiful, but because it did not hide the scar. For the first time in 12 years, the silver mark beneath her collarbone was uncovered beneath open light, curving over her pale skin like a secret that had grown tired of being buried. Adrian walked several paces behind her, close enough to reach her if she fell, far enough to let every watching council member understand that she was not being carried into judgment. She was walking into it. The court waited beneath the blood moon, a circular chamber of black stone and high glass, with royal wolves seated along the outer ring like living shadows. Council elders stood in their formal cloaks. Victoria Ashford stood near the throne in white and gold, her hands folded, her face calm, her smile sharpened for an audience. Travis Cole was brought forward in silver restraints that dulled his rank, but not his arrogance. The moment he saw Scarlet, he laughed under his breath. Still pretending you belong among kings, he said. A scarred mistake in a borrowed dress is still a mistake. The old fear moved through Scarlet first, quick and familiar, reaching for her throat. Then something deeper rose beneath it. The howl from the stone, the name in the burned registry, her mother's voice. Survive first. Scarlet stopped at the center of the circle and lifted her chin. I remember now, she said. Her voice was not loud, but the court carried it as if the walls themselves wanted to hear. I remember the night they told me my wolf was defective. I remember the collar. I remember Victoria standing on the stairs while Travis signed away my name. Victoria gave a soft sigh, perfectly timed. Your Majesty, trauma has made her unstable. The scar is reacting because cursed blood always resists judgment. Several council members shifted. Scarlet saw doubt flicker across old faces, and for one breath, she was 16 again, surrounded by people who preferred a comfortable lie to an inconvenient girl. Adrian's aura darkened, but he did not speak over her. That restraint gave Scarlet more strength than any command could have. She turned to him only once. You asked who did this to me, she said. Let me show them. Adrian's golden eyes changed, not with approval, not with possession, but with trust so fierce it almost hurt. Only if it is your choice. Scarlet faced the court again and placed her hand over the silver scar. The room reacted at once. Wolves rose. The healer whispered her name. Victoria's mask cracked. Travis took one step back. The seal under Scarlet's palm burned cold, then bright, and a ring of pale light spread across the black stone floor. She did not scream. She did not kneel. She stood trembling in the center of the royal court, while years of stolen silence peeled away from her skin like frost beneath sunrise. The scar opened into lines of moonlight, not ugly, not shameful, not broken, but ancient. Behind Scarlet, the air shimmered. A white-silver wolf, vast and luminous as winter moonlight, lifted its head from the shadow of her body and opened its golden eyes. Every royal wolf lowered itself to the floor. The council went still. Scarlet looked at Travis, then at Victoria, and her voice came out steady. This was never proof that I was damaged. It was proof that you were afraid of what I would become. The white-silver wolf behind Scarlet did not move like a shadow. It moved like moonlight, remembering it had teeth, silent, vast, and impossibly calm. Its golden eyes swept across the royal court, and every wolf in the chamber lowered its head before the council could decide whether pride was worth disobedience. Scarlet stood at the center of the black stone circle with one hand over her scar, feeling the old seal fall apart beneath her skin in thin threads of silver heat. The pain was there, bright and sharp, but it no longer owned her. For the first time since she was 16, the silence inside her was not empty. Something breathed there, something alive. Victoria Ashford stared at the glowing wolf as if the truth itself had stepped from Scarlet's body to accuse her. "No," Victoria whispered, the word breaking through her perfect court voice. "That is not possible. She is an Omega. She is nothing." Scarlet looked at her, and the wolf behind her turned its head at the exact same time. Victoria flinched. The court saw it. Travis saw it. Adrian saw it from beside the throne, where he stood with both hands at his sides, his restraint more terrifying than any roar. The council elders began to kneel one by one, not because Adrian commanded them, but because the Luna aura rolling from Scarlet filled the chamber with a pressure older than rank. It smelled of winter roses, clean snow, and lightning over pine forests. It reached the hidden corners of the room where lies had always survived, and it dragged them into the light. Victoria recovered in a flash, or tried to. She reached into the folds of her white sleeve and drew out a small silver charm etched with the same broken pattern as Scarlet's scar. "She is deceiving you," Victoria cried. "That creature is a curse wearing royal light." The charm flared, sending a cold ripple across the floor toward Scarlet. Adrian took one step forward, and every torch in the chamber bent toward him. But before he could cross the circle, the royal wolves rose and blocked his path. For one breath, even the Alpha King looked stunned. Then he understood. This was not his trial to finish. This was Scarlet's truth to claim. Scarlet felt the cold ripple touch her feet, felt the last hook of the old locks searching for her fear. She thought of the courtyard, the collar, the years of lowering her gaze so others could stand taller on her silence. Then she lifted her hand from her scar and said, "No more." The white-silver wolf stepped through her, not away from her, but with her, wrapping the room in a surge of pale light. The charm in Victoria's hand went dark and dropped to the floor with a small, final sound. No one spoke. No one breathed. Then the court doors opened, and Mason Reed entered with the elders of Silver Hollow under royal guard, their fine coats dusted with snow, their faces emptied of color. The people who had watched Scarlet kneel now stood before the woman they had tried to erase. Adrian descended from the throne at last. He did not take Scarlet's hand. He did not pull her behind him. He walked to the edge of the moonlit circle, lowered himself to one knee before her, and bowed his head. The sound that moved through the court was not shock. It was surrender. When he spoke, his voice was low, steady, and filled with a wrath so controlled it made the stones seem to listen. "My Luna," he said, "who shall answer first?" For a long moment, Scarlet did not answer. The entire court waited with bowed heads while the white-silver wolf stood behind her like a living crown of moonlight. Adrian remained on one knee before her, not as a king surrendering his throne, but as a king returning a stolen one. Travis Cole was the first to break under the silence. His face had gone pale, his former arrogance peeling away with every second the royal wolves stared at him. "Scarlet," he said, her name clumsy in his mouth now that it mattered. "You know how packs survive. Orders came from above. I was following what I was told." Scarlet turned toward him, and the moonlight along her scar brightened. "You followed power," she said. "Not orders." The words were quiet, but they moved through the chamber with the weight of a bell. Adrian rose then, slow and controlled, his golden eyes fixed on the man who had helped bury her name. "Travis Cole," he said, "you are stripped of rank, stripped of command, and stripped of any claim to Silver Hollow authority. You will serve at the Frost border under royal watch until every Omega you silenced has been brought safely before the crown." Travis looked as if he had expected rage and found something worse. Justice that would not end quickly enough for his comfort. Victoria Ashford lifted her chin, still fighting for the illusion of grace. "You cannot do this," she said. "The council recognized my candidacy. The border pacts recognized my blood." Mason Reed stepped forward and opened the burned registry in front of the court. The border pacts recognized forged records, false testimony, and a Luna mark created by stolen magic. Gasps rippled through the elders. Victoria's perfect face tightened, but she had nowhere left to hide. Adrian looked at the council. "Remove the false mark from every record. Remove her claim from every treaty. Remove her voice from every chamber where she used another woman's silence as a ladder." Victoria's white cloak seemed suddenly too bright, too thin, too small against the black stone and all those watching wolves. She looked at Scarlet then, and for the first time there was no sweetness left in her voice. "You were supposed to stay forgotten." Scarlet stepped closer, the scar at her collarbone glowing softly, no longer a wound that demanded to be covered. "I know," she said. "That is why I survived." The elders of Silver Hollow were brought forward next. Men and women who had once watched her lower her eyes in hallways, who had accepted warm rooms while she slept near laundry steam, who had let one girl become the price of their comfort. They dropped to their knees before Adrian. He did not look at them. "Do not kneel to me," he said. "You wronged her." Slowly, they turned toward Scarlet. She felt the old part of herself tremble, the part trained to forgive too quickly so punishment would stop, but the wolf behind her pressed warm strength into her spine. "Every Omega in Silver Hollow will be free to leave," Scarlet said. "Their debts erased, their records restored, their names returned. Those who helped hide mine will lose the titles they bought with it." Adrian's voice followed hers like thunder under snow. "The crown does not punish weakness. It punishes betrayal." At dawn, the gates of Blackwood Citadel opened. 50 royal wolves lined the steps in silence as Scarlet walked between them, not hidden beneath Adrian's cloak now, but wearing it by choice over a silver dress that left her scar visible to the morning light. The people of the court bowed as she passed. Some bowed from loyalty, some from fear. The wolves bowed from recognition. At the top of the stairs, Adrian waited beside the black throne,